I was a police officer in a small town where the population is under 10,000 people. Something strange happening in our town, and no one has an explanation for it. Many experts from all around the world came and investigated what was going on, but it doesn't seem to be helping. Day by day, families have moved out of the town, and our police station is not getting any better. It seems like every day a fellow officer has quit, one by one, and we are really short on staff. I will go on Main Street and post a poster here and there, but no one has applied lately. And everyone knows the reason why. It all started with a little boy. One hot summer day, I was eating lunch in my cruiser when I got a call that someone saw a body floating in a lake. It was a lake that everyone in my town would go to chill and barbecue every weekend. I also take my wife and kids there whenever I get the day off. So I responded to the lake, and when I got there, some local man had already pulled the body out, and it was a little boy. The ambulance came and took the little boy to the hospital. So I decided to go to the hospital to check up on the little boy and finish up some documents. The doctor confirmed that the little boy had been in the water for a while and couldn't help him. Right when I was about to walk out of the hospital, the doctor yelled out to me, "Hey detective, I want you to see something." I followed the doctor to the room where the little boy was. The doctor opened one of the boy's eyes, and in that eye was a glowing red. It was something I had never seen before and was a bit shaken. I took out a glove and put it on. I opened his other eyes and it was the same thing, a glowing red eye. It was so strange that the boy had no heartbeat and was long gone, and the glowing red eyes really tripped me out. My boss told me to go home because it was late, so I took off and went home. When I got home, my wife and kids were already asleep, so I took a shower. After a long shower, I thought to myself, what if it's not a human? I have never seen anything like it. I got out of the shower and went to sleep next to my wife. Right when I was about to fall asleep, I got a call from the station, and I looked at the clock. It was 3 a.m. My boss told me to hurry back to the station, so I got up and went straight there. I was told that the boy who was at the hospital somehow got back to life and killed the doctor and 25 other staff members who had been killed by the boy. The little boy took off running. Small tears dropped from my eyes and I felt like throwing up after hearing what my boss had told me. I sat down in my office chair and my legs felt so weak. We all geared up and headed to the hospital. When I stepped into the hospital, it felt really weird. I saw no blood anywhere, and the remains of the people that had been killed were lying on the ground. Everyone who was murdered by the boy had a large cut in their stomach and was missing their intestines. The open stomach was so clean and fresh, there was no single drop of blood anywhere. All of my coworkers just stared at each other, and one of my partners could not believe his eyes. We had to help calm him down. After driving home, I threw up out of the window and felt a bit sick because of what happened. Days have passed and there is no sign of the little boy. 2 of our fellow officers resigned after the incident because they could not believe what happened at the hospital. One day, I was going through my usual routine of getting my coffee in the break room, returning to my desk, and looking through some photos on my desk. My phone rings and I pick it up. It's about someone breaking into a house and murdering a man inside his home. I sped off to the house where a woman was crying and telling the story to the officer that was first responding there. She said that her husband and she were sitting and eating in the dining room when they heard a little boy crying in front of the door. The little boy kept saying that he was hungry and had nowhere to go. So the couple opened the door and told the little boy to come inside. As they were trying to talk to the boy about where his parents were, the boy's red eyes glowed and his hands grew some sharp long claws. The boy opened the husband's stomach as the wife was just crying and had to watch. The cut on the stomach was so perfectly cut that it opened, as the boy's face started to change. The boy's mouth opened wide as all the blood fell perfectly into his mouth. He then swallows all the intestines in as fast as 10 seconds. The wife ran out of the door and went straight under her car to hide. The boy got out so fast and looked around, then took off running. I walked into the house and there was the husband lying on the ground. A large cut in the stomach, missing all of his intestines and not a drip of blood. I was going back to the station, holding onto my badge, thinking if I should resign. As I walked to my desk, the captain came up to me and told all of us to be strong and keep up with our duty. We are here to protect all of our citizens. He begged all of us not to quit and to keep on doing what we do. Day by day, we respond to so many calls that people are getting murdered while in their cars. A witness said that while people were stopping at the red light, a boy would walk up to open the door and turn into something big with dark skin and 2 large horns popping up from his forehead, making a loud scream that cut up people's stomachs and swallowed their intestines. Then when he finishes licking all the blood clean, he will just turn back into the same boy and take off running. People are leaving our town day by day. Most of the neighborhood is empty by now. I'm thinking if I should gather my family and move out as far as we could. One day, going to work, everyone was just packing up and was in a rush. I inquire as to what they are doing and why everyone is packing, but no one has time to speak with me. Then I looked around the corner and saw my partner, who is also my best friend. He was sitting in the corner drinking a bottle of liquor talking to himself, so I asked him what was wrong. He told me he had heard what happened to the captain. He left us in the middle of the night trying to leave town. When he was pumping gas, the boy came up to him and cut his stomach open. Then the boy opened the captain's door and did the same thing to all his family that were in the car. I dropped to my knees and sat down with my friend. I took my badge from my belt and threw it out the window. I told my best friend to let's leave town right away. But he refuses to because his wife and kids have already ditched him and left him. So I told him to come with me, but he refused. I then tapped his shoulder and said my goodbye. I ran into my cruiser and put on my sirens as I stepped on the gas. I realized there were no cars on the road. Everyone had left our town. I drove up to my front door, and as I opened the door, I yelled out for my wife to pack up the kids and that we were leaving town right now. But no answer. I ran into the living room and, to my horror, my wife and all my kids' stomachs had opened up, missing all their intestines. I dropped down and hugged my kids on the ground, crying so loudly. I was so mad that I grabbed my gasoline container and drove to a gas station to fill up some gas and buy some rope and food. I drove to an abandoned house near the mountain. I shot my gun up in the air and yelled out, "Come on over right now." And there it was, the little boy slowly walking out and saying, "Hi, Dad." I asked him why he was so heartless and had to come and kill all his brothers and sisters. He just slowly replied, "Sorry, Dad, I was just hungry." Then I took out the food that I bought at the gas station and said, "Let's go inside and eat it." I pull out some strong sleeping pills and mix them with the food and drink. After eating, I held the little boy, who is my son, to sleep in my arms. I stared at his face while he was sleeping and thinking about how many people he had killed. I am very angry and sad, blaming everything on me for creating this boy into this world. When he was deep asleep, I took out the rope from my car and strapped my son to the bed. I poured gas all around the house and lit it on fire. I got in my car and sped off. I heard a loud demon scream inside and drove as far as I could out of the town. And here's how the little boy was born into this world. One day, I decided to go fishing at a lake up in the mountains. As I was fishing, I saw a beautiful woman in a red dress walking up to me. She asked me if there was any luck in catching anything yet, and I told her not yet. So she sat next to me and we talked for a while. She is so beautiful that I felt in love with her at first sight, just as if she had put a spell on me. She told me that she lived in a small house in the woods nearby. Every day, coming from work, I would drive my patrol car to visit her. I cheated on my wife for so many years. One day, the lady told me that she was pregnant, and I got scared that my wife would find out. I finally told her it was over. She didn't say anything for a minute, and then told me what to do about the baby in her stomach, and I just ignored it. As I was about to walk out, she screamed at me so loudly, saying that one day I would see. I turned back to look at her, and she started to turn into something that cannot be described. Her body grew into something big, with 2 horns slowly coming out of her forehead. Her eyes were glowing red. It was at that time that I knew she wasn't a human. I ran out of that house in the woods and never returned. 7 years later, on one hot summer day, I was eating lunch in my cruiser when I got a call that someone had seen a little boy's body floating in a lake.